Hi, I'm Laura Rolfe, host of Powered by Franchising. I get to work with some amazing franchisors and franchise systems. I'm excited to welcome an emerging brand to the show today and talk about how important it is for education and world growth for our children. Please help me welcome Nicole Chaudry. She is the founder and CEO of WorldKids School. Nicole, welcome to Powered by Franchising.
So happy to be here, Laura. Thanks for having me.
Well, I love your brand. As we talked before the show, you are creating quite a buzz among the consultant community and for clients that are interested in childhood education. You have a little bit of a unique model, so we'll get into that a little bit deeper in the show. But what drew you to childhood education and creating World Kids School?
What drew me into the early education world was really becoming a parent and creating a quality language immersion early childhood setting for my own child. I moved here from Europe originally, and in Europe, it is very common to be multilingual and to be raised with multiple languages. So when I moved to the US, I was looking for the very same thing for my son and I couldn't find it. So with the business background that I have, my prior life, I looked into what would it take to create a program that I would love to have for my own son.
Well, excellent. Sometimes it's out of the necessities of our own lives that an idea is born and created. So tell our listeners a little bit about the mission of World Kids School and the foundation. What is the differentiator in addition to multiple languages and the global impact? Tell us in kind of your words about World Kids School.
Our main mission really is to create global citizens in that world and taking advantage of that window when a child's brain is so perceptive to multiple languages. So, what really is a niche with World Kids School is that we offer a great quality early childhood education program combined with childcare, but also children are immersed into high quality immersion all day long. So, most of our children, when they step into a World Kids classroom, it's like they're stepping into a different country. We're teaching in Washington Mandarin and Spanish. In North Carolina, we're teaching Spanish and French. Most of these children, they don't have French, Mandarin, or Spanish at home, and their parents are very aware and educated about the fact that a child's brain is so open to languages in the first 6 years, and they're taking that opportunity.
Well, and I love that you grew up in Europe, and in most countries around the world, kids are immersed in multiple languages from birth. Their grandparents may speak a different language, whether it's Mandarin, Spanish, French, etc. And so you're exposing kids to those early language opportunities here in the United States with the expansion of World Kids School. So you found a need in your community for World's Kids School, and then you saw the opportunity to expand your footprint across the United States. Talk about the decision to franchise and what that process has looked like to supporting new franchisees as you open across the United States.
What happened very quickly after we opened our corporate locations was that parents that had children enrolled and also teachers and educators that worked for World Kids, they asked me, Nicole, can you help us create a program like this? So very early on, I did see a need of World Kids schools around the nation to expand. And the feedback that I've gotten is that our parents and our teachers wanted to spread that around more communities. And I couldn't do that alone. So when my son went off to college a couple of years ago, I decided that was the season to franchise World Kids School. By that time, we had 10 open corporate locations. We've done it many times. We've created all the systems, and I could really dedicate my time to being a franchisor.
Well, excellent. So tell us about the team around you and how they support not only your corporate locations, but also support franchise locations as they open their World Kids School in their communities.
Yes, absolutely. So the team around us is really a combination of subject matter experts that have gone from the corporate operations to the franchise operations. So they have opened all our corporate stores or schools, and now they're helping our franchisees around the country. So we have subject matter experts for operations, for marketing, for real estate. So a franchisee will really get one expert for each department that will support them along the journey.
Well, and that's so important in franchising. That's why people invest in a franchise because they have the guardrails in place. They have the support through the onboarding process, finding the ideal location. You have a couple of different footprints available for investment with World Kids School, depending upon the need of the community and how that would fit in. And you'll really help the franchise owner decide what's going to be a best fit for them as well as their community. So I love that. As far as the investors, the people that have been drawn to World Kids School so far as franchisees, who are you seeing is attracted to this business model?
We really see franchisees from different walks of life. A lot of them are coming from a corporate world where they already have the know-how of the business background, and now they're looking for something purposeful in their life. And it really helps us because they might already have a business background and a financial background, and we can really help them with establishing their school and building their school. It's not really necessarily only educators, and you don't have to be an educator to franchise a school.
Do you see very many educators investing in a World Kids School, or is it more the corporate background and people looking to maybe transition from that corporate career into business ownership and owning a business that's going to impact the future of our kids?
Surprisingly, there's not very many educators that have been our first franchisees. It's mostly people from the corporate world that are really good in what they were doing before. They made a really good living for themselves, but they're looking for a different opportunity where they can create a great living for themselves, but also create some purpose.
So, what kind of qualities do those corporate leaders have that are looking at World Kids Schools? Is it operations, marketing, sales, management? What are their skill sets?
Most of them, I think, have had some leadership responsibilities in their prior job as well, which really helps them. And they need us as the franchisor to kind of just help them in defining what the next step is for them. So they now want to make a difference in the community. They want to change children's lives. They maybe want to change the lives of their staff and impact them positively. So that is where we're helping them.
So, if I become a franchisee for World Kids School, what is my role as the franchise owner, and how do I build out my school and then hire my initial team members?
So we have different models for our franchisees coming in. You can either be an owner occupier, so you're the director of your center. We also have seen about 80% of our investors and franchisees that are investors. So they'll hire an educator that has a background in education, and they're just really involved. And they're also hoping to scale this and spread this across many communities. I think so far we have a third of our investors being interested in area development agreements, or they have already signed ADAs with us.
So, what does an area developer look like with World Kids Schools?
Yeah, an area developer means we're an emerging brand. So obviously, we still have some attractive territories available. And that's the beauty about joining an emerging world, an emerging brand, excuse me. So those area development agreements are signed at the signing of the franchise agreement, and franchisees are committing to opening up 2 to 5 locations.
Well, and I think that's really where the wealth builder and the community mindset individual makes the greatest impact is if you have that vision that you're casting to open several centers within a large community. Like I live in Phoenix, Arizona, and we have 3.2 million people. So there's lots of places to open a World Kids School. So you could open multiple locations throughout our community. Or if you're in a more rural state, you can look at making an impact in different cities around your state. Is that what you're finding?
Absolutely. And alone in a neighborhood here in Seattle, I believe we have 4 locations within a 7-mile radius. And so they definitely see the opportunity to create multiple schools. And most of them, they tell us in the first meeting, this makes sense to us if we can scale it and build a legacy for ourselves.
Yes. So, is it how difficult is it to find those educators, those leaders of the school, and then the teachers that are going to be teaching our future generations to come with World Kids School?
That is a great question. And it's a question that always comes up when we meet new investors slash franchisees. In early childhood education, the beauty is that teachers do not have to have a degree. So it's a little easier for us to find staffing for our schools because it's an entry level education job for a lot of teachers. The teachers will often start in the early childhood field and they get experience with children. And by working in an early childhood environment, then they might get the degree that they didn't have the opportunity to get earlier in life because maybe they've been a parent and dedicated their time to their parents. So it's not as difficult as people might think, just because we're less restricted than elementary school or middle schools or high school.
What is the typical age range for a student at World Kids School, and what kind of students are you attracting?
Age range is 3 months to 6 years. So we start with infants, which is the 3 months to 12 months stage, and then it goes up to toddlers, typically a year to 2.5 years old, and then 2.5 year old until they go to kindergarten. And why we emphasize for that on that age group is because that's really when their brain is so open to languages. They're with us all week, 5 days a week. We're speaking French to them, we're speaking Mandarin to them, we're speaking Spanish to them. And by the time they graduate, their parents are looking for an elementary school that offers languages as well. And what we've seen is parents are now taking classes in French, Spanish, and Mandarin because their children are coming home and singing in French or, counting in Spanish.
Yeah, well, and I could see that a student is going to remember that language skill much longer than those of us who took language in junior high and high school as a requirement. I didn't learn it when I was a baby, when I was 3 months, a year, 4 years old. And I think it would have stuck with me. I learned German and some Spanish and sign language. So I can still speak a little bit of it and I can understand more of it. But that early immersion process, I think, has much more longevity. And as we become more global across the world, I can see that that would be a huge benefit, a huge leg up for students to be immersed in those language skills.
Absolutely. And German is actually my native language. I didn't study English and French until I was in high school, and I wished I had it at an early age.
Mhm.
I grew up with other languages in my early childhood years, but it also really trains a child's brain that when they learn a language later in life, if they already have been exposed to languages, it's like music. They just pick it up quicker. It's the memory that comes back. And it also forms adaptability. Children that are in a classroom where they switch between languages, and we also, by the way, we travel to different countries in our curriculum and we expose different countries and cultures in the world every month. So they also get that global knowledge and curriculum. So they learn about different places and cultures and places in the world. And so they just naturally become more adaptable. And that's what you want for your child.
Absolutely. Well, you sound like you have a very fun curriculum. I've heard you talk about coming home singing in French or that global exposure and learning about different countries and then floating back and forth between languages throughout the day and throughout the week. What else makes your curriculum unique at World Kids School?
I think what makes our curriculum unique is that we are, first of all, introducing the countries in the world and the different languages, but also it's all connected to a software and it's really it's maybe not the best terminology to use, but it's a plug and play curriculum. So any educator or franchisee or investor that comes in can learn the curriculum very easily. We have a software where the lessons are planned out for the day. So a teacher will just log in the morning and see, oh, this is my curriculum for the day. They can do that a month ahead, a week ahead. And then we upload pictures of our activities and our songs and themes are uploaded in the app as well. And the beauty about that as well is that that app connects also the school with the parents. So parents, when they pick up their children in the evening, they see what children have learned. But it's a great curriculum because it's so easy to learn, and anyone that doesn't have an education background can learn the curriculum and be a teacher in the classroom. They have to have the passion, of course.
Well, the passion, and does the teacher need to be multilingual as well?
That's very true. The teachers do need to be multilingual, but our franchisees do not need to be multilingual. For instance, I do not speak Spanish or Mandarin myself, but we teach Spanish and Mandarin all over our corporate locations. I think what's important is that if you're the owner or investor, that you really just believe in that concept and you want to make a difference in the community and spread the world.
Absolutely. Well, I like the difference that you're making and your schools are making across the U.S. and thereby impacting the world. So, what has scaling this brand beyond your 10 corporate locations and your leadership into franchising taught you, Nicole?
It's taught me is that we are our own franchise model. When I started franchising, I was looking at other successful franchisors, and I think there's a lot to learn from others. But we also have a unique model. And I would say we're really big on communication and giving our franchisees attention and supporting them. I would say more than maybe some of our competitors. And the feedback has been that even though we're an emerging brand, we're doing a lot of things right, and the franchisees feel supported.
Excellent. Well, I think that's really important. Anybody that I talk to who is a franchise candidate interested in franchising, they want to feel that support. They want their own level of autonomy. They want to be able to, create their own culture and impact in their particular business, but following systems, having the operations, the training, the support, the leadership, being part of not only the franchise system with that corporate direction and a business coach, but also having that peer support. So, as an emerging brand, you have an opportunity to connect to those peers or those early adopters, those 80% of new early adopters who are franchisees, who are investors, may have different needs than the other 20% who are owner operator managing the schools. So I think that is a unique opportunity, and one of the reasons why I love emerging brands.
And if I may add to that as well, the first franchisees that are joining, they also have an opportunity to make an impact. We all know if we look at very successful franchise systems that some of the best ideas are coming from the franchisees or have come from the franchise. And I always tell my franchisees, we have all the systems to open your school and support you, but we're interested in your feedback as well, because I know you will bring great ideas to the table that we might implement for the entire organization.
Absolutely. And many of those new early adopter franchisees may have a role as you build your systems and you're no longer an emerging brand and you're having multiple locations and success. They may step into some corporate roles. I see that happen often as well in franchising.
And the opposite way around,
Yeah.
sorry, but we do have our corporate team now wanting to franchise. We're like, we need you there.
Yeah, I know. I see that
And I hear
too.
that's common. So,
I love this, and I've built enough equity that I'm ready to invest in my own business, and they can take that experience and build their own World Kids School. So that's also very,
right.
very cool. So, what kind of advice would you give to any of our listeners who are interested in franchising with World Kids School? Any lessons learned that you could share with them?
I think the advice I would give is to really make sure that their mission aligns with our philosophy and mission as well. And we have several meetings in our discovery process. We really introduce the concept. We take a lot of time to get to know the franchisee as well, because I think it's really important that it is a good fit both ways. So that would be my advice.
What kind of questions should the prospective franchisee be asking of you or other franchise systems that are in early childhood education?
I think the questions they should be asking is around the process, the timelines, and also licensing. Every state has slightly different licensing regulations. So we should be speaking about what does it look like for California or Washington, which are some of the stricter states, and they should be prepared for the journey to walk the journey with us. Do I think they need to be fearful about that? No, because we got it for them. We have, research all of that and we'll be right there with them every step along.
Yeah, and I think fear is innate in investing in any business when you're betting on yourself and you're looking at business opportunities. How does this align with my own values, my own business and investment goals? I'm going to, in this particular franchise, I'm going to be shaping and impacting the lives of children, the educators that we hire, and the community through World Kids School. So it's important to take a look at your why and why are you looking at early childhood education versus a completely different brand, pet care, restoration, senior care. That why, which is one of the things that I try and help candidates really nail and hone in on, so we can look at brands that are a best fit for their value system and for their family system.
Also, what kind of lifestyle are they looking for? If they're franchising a franchise where weekends are required, then they need to be ready for that. Like with World Kids School, I created this as a mother, raising my son since he was 6 years pretty much on my own. And it was important for me to be there in the evenings and on the weekends. School is open Monday to Fridays, and the kids go home in the evening. And so that was the right commitment level for me. And I'm always encouraging franchisees to ask themselves.
What type of investment is somebody looking at if they're going to invest in World Kids schools?
So we have three models, and the investment level, depending if it's a conversion to building out a new school, is between 300,000 to well, we're just releasing our new FDD. It's going up to about 1 million to get off the ground, find a property, and often we do negotiate some tenant improvements with the landlords as well. It just kind of depends if they're purchasing the property, they have that option to do so, or they're leasing.
Yeah, so we can talk through that if any of our listeners are interested in the build out. How much do you have available? What type might be best aligned with you? And then if World Kids School is the right fit for you, then I turn you over to Nicole and her team at World Kids School to go on a deep dive on that investment level. You do a great job of outlining what that looks like in your franchise disclosure document, the ongoing investment costs. But build out of a space that's leased looks very different than a place that you have purchased and you own. So are you getting into that real estate play as well, which is smart for a lot of investors, but it's not always the right one for all investors?
Absolutely. And some franchisees that, especially the ones that are signing area development agreements, they might lease the first facility and then purchase the second and third. And they might also think about maybe their exit plan in 10 years or giving this to their children. And then they might just hold on to the real estate as well. So there's several options, and we have a great team that can walk them through that in detail.
Well, Nicole, what excites you most about the future of World Kids School?
I'm most excited about the legacy part for myself and for the franchisees and spreading the world across the country. Since the start of founding of World Kids School, I feel like we've changed lives. When a child is enrolled in an early childhood program and now they're becoming fluent in two or three languages, it just changes the entire path for them in life. It changes the dynamic in their family because the parents are now traveling to Spanish-speaking countries or trying to learn French themselves. So I'm excited to bring this concept to many more communities across the country. I'm very excited for the first franchisees that are working on their locations, are getting close to opening up their locations in several states across the country. and to visit them and for them to meet their financial goals and also their personal goals, change lives with us together.
Well, excellent. Well, I'm excited to help connect any of our listeners who are interested in learning more about WorldKids School. I know you're in the process of re-registering your franchise disclosure document. That happens typically every spring with every franchise system, so not unique to you guys. Um, are you in all of the registration states or some of them? It sounds like you're in Washington, in California. Do you have pretty wide availability?
We're registered in all states. We have franchise schools going into California. We have some franchisees in Washington. We have signed agreements in North Carolina already. And Texas is probably going to be the next one. What we're seeing a lot of interest from Texas and Florida as well, which is really amazing. But we are registered in all states. Washington is getting a little tight on availability because it's just our home state.
Yes. Well, and it was interesting, just kind of a sidebar note. I lived in Washington from third grade through eighth grade, and I was in an immersion school. It was a public school, but it was very, I was a minority in that school, and it was cool that there were lots of different languages that were spoken, lots of different cultures represented in my elementary as well as my junior high school. And I think that had an impact on me and my desire to think big and also just get along well with people of all different backgrounds. I'm excited for World Schools as well, or World Kids
Laura,
Schools.
that's sorry I cut you off. But it's so interesting because what language did you learn?
I learned German, and then there were a
Okay.
lot of people who spoke, or a lot of kids that spoke Vietnamese and Cantonese. So it was a little bit of a melting pot in the public school system in Tacoma. This was
Okay,
back in the
so
80s. It was a while ago.
but so much has changed and so exciting. There's so many schools now around many states where that is the norm in elementary school. It used to be that there may be in a neighborhood where there's a large population of Spanish speakers or Mandarin speakers that they would have schools where there would be a language immersion elementary school. But in Washington, mostly all of the districts now have several schools where children are learning another language. And mostly here it is Spanish and Mandarin. That's why we decided on these languages from kindergarten on. And then they can actually go to a middle school and high school and graduate with AP classes in Mandarin or Spanish. And that will help them with their college applications. It's very competitive. Many of our students that are now, going to high schools, they're looking at like top universities around the country. And my son, being trilingual, he got in his first choice, a very competitive university himself. And we really believe that him having that in his resume made him stand out.
Well, and that he probably stood out from early on having that immersion as a youngster before even going into the elementary school that had the immersion language. So he was already speaking other languages ahead of his classmates and probably a leader because of those skills that you had brought to your community very, very early on. So it's cool to see the legacy that you have built and how that's impacted your own son and your family moving forward. And congratulations, Mom, on getting then him
Thank
getting
you.
his first choice school. That's always very satisfying. My kids are they did pretty well in college too, but they're a little bit older. So
Yeah, it's really fun. It's been a great journey. He's gonna intern in Shanghai this summer, and he was, so excited about it. So he has no fear of going into an environment that he maybe hasn't been in, and just jump in and learn new things. And I really believe it's because he's been through an environment where he was switching between languages all day long. And he went to an elementary school, by the way, where he was the minority, the only not native Spanish speaking child. And that's how he became even more fluent, and he reads and writes in three languages now as well.
wow, very impressive.
Yeah.
So, what is it, what is your legacy that you want to leave with World Kids Schools, and what do you ultimately hope that that legacy represents?
I'm hoping the legacy represents changing lives. And it starts, of course, with the children, them going a different path, being becoming global citizens through World Kids, and also entrepreneurs that want to do something purposeful, and also run a business that makes sense for them and where they do really well for themselves financially as well, and spread that around the country and mentor entrepreneurs.
Well, excellent. Well, Nicole, it's been so delightful having you on the show today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our listeners who might be considering early childhood education and their global impact on the world?
What I would like to share with the listeners is just to kind of consider how much impact they have on a child's life when they enter their lives with maybe their own school so early, and how it really changes the entire family for the future. Because I've seen it in my own family, and I just really love what I do. And I'm looking for partners and franchisees that have passion about education and also want to do a great living for themselves. I think that can be done together. And that will be it.
Well, I can tell that you're very, very passionate about World Kids School, Nicole, and the impact and legacy that you have on your own family, as well as the corporate locations, and now building out the franchise system across the United States. So I look forward to working with you and your team to help candidates decide if World Kids School is the right franchise opportunity, either as an investor or an owner operator. Been delightful having you on the show today, Nicole.
It's been so nice being on the show, Laura. Thanks for inviting me.
And appreciate our listeners for tuning in to Powered by Franchising. If you'd like to connect with me or learn more about World Kids School, you can visit our website, mintfranchiseconsultants.com. I do have a link to my calendar and more information about the franchises. Thanks for tuning in.